Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today I'll be sharing more of my music opinions that are guaranteed to start a fight. You know the drill. If you agree, if you disagree, let me know down in the comments. I read all of them. I try to answer everybody in a timely fashion, so feel free to hit me up and we will start a discussion on the matter. My first opinion for today is that more people need to support musicians or entertainers in general who are not conventionally attractive. This is not shameless self-promotion, I swear. I see so many people whose entire media consumption is determined solely on whether they are attracted to the creator or not, which I feel is not only unfair to the music community as a whole, but it's also unfair to yourself as a listener. If you only listen to Justin Bieber because he's so hot, then you're missing out on like 90% of what music is out there. A lot of my favorite bands don't have singers, and everybody's super ugly, and some of the best music that you've ever heard, and the looks and the aesthetic don't matter. Not everything is all about attractive people, and you must now go to horny jail. Can segue that to my next opinion, and I think it's a very awesome thing that I'm seeing a lot more artists out there in the mainstream pushing body positivity and things like that. These would be like Lizzo, like Meghan Trainor, Andy Milonakis. Wait, how'd that last one get in there? Again, to me, at the end of the day, it's not what you look like, it's what you sound like. And I'm not judging anybody in the music world for anything else besides their sound. But at the same time, I also think it's absolutely great that artists are out there pushing this message and it's being heard and it's being accepted on a more wide-scale level. This is what we need to see more of, the music affecting the world in positive ways. Says the guy who only makes super sad and angry bullshit music. My next opinion is that soundtracks seem to be becoming less memorable as time goes by. I think that we have sort of an oversaturation of a lot of soundtracks using the same ideas and the same musical themes to create the same setting and effect, the same emotional response from the listener or the watcher. These would be like your movie trailer drums, right? Like your... These would be like the sub bass drop, the... before something impactful happens, right? At the end of that, that's when the explosion happens, right? Or it'll be like the fluttering, whimsical flute melody that plays in the early morning when the grass is covered in dew in the mountain glen, whatever the hell. I also feel like films, trailers, shows, video games all had kind of a different sense of how they made the soundtracks, sort of back in the day.
Okay, boomer.
I'm thinking like older, epic, blockbuster kind of movies, right? Like Jurassic Park or something, have his soaring main themes. Right, like everyone knows these melodies. Just the main melody stands out, and now 30 years later, I still can pick that melody out from anywhere. Whereas I couldn't tell you a single memorable soundtrack moment from any movie that was made in the last 10 years. Nothing has stood out to me. And the origins of this are kind of interesting and a little bit clouded to me because I know that being a video game guy, and especially stuff from my childhood in like the early 90s, there were limitations, heavy limitations on what could be done with the sound hardware on these old game consoles like the NES, right? So there was constraints that were put in place on the composers. You were only allowed to have 3 voices and 1 noise oscillator going at the same time. The noise oscillator is like that kind of crunchy sound they use for like the drum effects on old video games. But besides the noise oscillator, then you'll have like a bass line, and then you'll have like 2 other voices that are supposed to imply the rest of the melody and the harmony. And people say it's the limitations, it's these constraints on the composer that forced them to create much more simpler and much more memorable melodies with the hardware they had available. So that's a pretty good argument for why soundtracks were better back in that time era, but it's really no excuse for people who have an entire orchestral arrangement, right? Like, why was the Jurassic Park and the Indiana Jones soundtrack so much memorable than any of the movies that came out in the last 10 years if they all had an entire orchestra to work with when composing the piece, right? So the reasons why, I don't know. Maybe one of you out there watching can clue me in, but all I know is that it's my angry grandpa opinion that soundtracks are just not what they used to be. So now we're going to segue into my artist recommendation before I get out of here for today, and we can't talk about soundtracks without mentioning the best of the best, and of course I am talking about Nobuo Uematsu. He's the composer for the Final Fantasy series and has been ever since the very start, and has made some of the most memorable and outstanding soundtrack work that I have ever heard, period, hands down. I urge you just to check out a lot of his compositions from any of the games that he has worked on. It's gone on to inspire like full-on live orchestral arrangement performances and everything. I know it doesn't seem likely to a lot of listeners out there that a soundtrack could be some of the best music that you've ever heard, but in the case of Nobuo Uematsu, that may very well be the case. He is low-key one of the best composers of our time, and I think it's kind of unfortunate that people outside of the video game world don't really know about him very much. So that's going to be it for this video. Don't forget to fight me about it down in the comments, and I'll catch you all next time. Hit my like button, and my subscribe button, and my Patreon button. And until next time, I hope that all of you have fun out there.